Hey, Scuff Tech here again with another in-depth keyboard review. Today we'll be taking a look at Razer's smallest keyboard yet, the Huntsman Mini. Diving straight into the Huntsman Mini, it's a 60% keyboard equipped with either Razer's Clicky purple or linear red optical switches. In today's review, we'll be taking a look at the purple optical switch variant. I've been keeping my eye out on Razer's optical switches for a while now, and the only reason I haven't tried them until now was because they never offered the purple switches outside of the full-sized 104 key Huntsman Elite. As someone who prefers TKL-sized keyboards, I was disappointed to find that the Razer Huntsman Tournament Edition that came out last year only offered the linear red optical switches, so I didn't get a chance to try the purple Clicky switches until today. Honestly, I'm excited to see how these compare to the Razer Clicky tactile greens on my Razer Chroma X Tournament Edition that I've been using on my daily driver for the past 2 to 3 years now. Are the optical switches really an improvement over traditional switches? Guess we'll have to give them a spin to find out. When opening the package, I can see that not much has changed over the past couple of years with Razer's packaging theme. It looks almost the same as the Black Widow Light that I reviewed a year ago. We are presented with the keyboard right away with very little extras. I can appreciate the simplistic packaging design that immediately presents you with the product. We still have the usual signed certificate by Razer that comes with every product. I'm guessing that this is a way to prove product authenticity, but on the other hand, it's kind of gimmicky, and in my opinion, it seems like a waste of paper. Also, there's the usual user manual that comes with instructions on how to use the secondary function keys, as well as some RGB lighting instructions on how to set up and use the Razer Synapse software. The only real accessory included with this product is a detachable USB-A to USB-C cable that's about 2 meters in length. It has the standard Razer style braiding and also has a nice attached cable tie included. Overall, I think it's a solid cable that's built for durability, and I have no complaints with the cable design. This is essentially the same cable that came with my Black Widow Light. As we can see, this cable is solid yet fairly flexible. I don't see this cable having any issues with lasting the lifespan of the product. Now onto the main product, the Huntsman Mini. The keyboard is wrapped in a plastic material that makes a very crinkly sound when trying to open it. There's a strip of adhesive on the back that keeps the keyboard sealed in a nice and snug package. Upon first impressions of the keyboard, it has the traditional Razer Chroma lighting effect that rotates between the common colors of the rainbow. The LEDs are vibrant and offer the same gamer RGB we've come to expect from Razer products. Looking over the body of the keyboard, there isn't anything flashy or fancy about it. It's a black keyboard with a plastic body construction. On the front of the keyboard, there's a stealthy Razer logo printed on the front. Looking at the sides, there's not much to say here. Flipping the board over, we can see that the back looks very similar to the front, with an addition of an indent roughly an inch deep for the USB-C port. The port is facing the left side of the board in case you're wondering. On the bottom of the board, Razer's included 4 anti-slip pads roughly 0.625 inches in length and are perfect squares. In terms of elevation angles, the 2 included feet both have 2 pieces that tuck into each other, offering both a 6-degree and 9-degree angle slant. We can also see that Razer has designed a pattern on the back that repeats their slogan, "By gamers, for gamers," over and over again. Now quickly looking over the weight and the dimensions of the keyboard. It's approximately 11.5 inches in width, 4 inches in length, 1.75 inches when including the height of the keycap, and 0.875 inches when measuring just the casing from the back. Looking at the front of the board, the height is roughly 1.375 inches including the keycaps, and 0.625 inches when measuring just the casing. The board itself weighs approximately 446 grams, which is extremely light, and the included USB-C cable weighs approximately 57 grams. Looking over the 60% layout, there are several function keys that are turned into secondary function keys that can be triggered by the FN key on the bottom right of the keyboard. Razer has all of these secondary function keys labeled in white on the side of each keycap. Personally, I think this is a great approach to showing the secondary functions. Having used this keyboard for about a week or so, I personally found a lot of the keys I used on the daily, such as refreshing a page with F5 or jumping between lines of code while programming with the arrow keys, to be a pretty major inconvenience. This is definitely geared towards gamers that only want access to the standard WASD layout, so if your daily routine involves using a lot of these function keys, then a 60% keyboard may not be right for you. Now let's take a listen to what these clicky purple switches actually sound like and compare them to the Razer greens from my old Chroma X. Listening to both of them, I personally prefer the more clicky sounds from my green switches on the Chroma X versus the Huntsman Mini that appears to be more pingy and less clicky. That's not to say that one is better than the other. They both offer their own unique clicky sound. I just personally prefer the sound of the Razer green switches over the purple. Now looking at the keycaps, Razer has finally decided to go with PBT keycaps this time around. In the past, they only offered ABS keycaps. Although the ABS keycaps felt more smooth, they aren't as resistant to wear and tear as the PBT keycaps when it comes to long-term use, so this is a welcome change. The ABS keycaps on my Chroma X have already started to fade on the edges and are definitely starting to show that ABS shine from finger oils that the PBT keycaps are resistant to. The caps on the Huntsman Mini are still the exact same dimensions as the ones found on my Chroma X, so no worries about having to use a non-standard lower profile keycap. These PBT caps are double shot molded and are fairly high quality compared to other cheap PBT caps that I've purchased in the past. They appear to be more refined with smooth edges and less visible manufacturer defects. One of the more notable changes to the newer Huntsman Mini caps is that the secondary function symbols have moved to the right of the primary ones compared to the top and bottom design of the older caps. It's not really a big deal, but I still prefer having the secondary function symbols below the primary ones as opposed to the side-to-side design that Razer went with this time around. It also appears that Razer has finally decided to make the secondary function symbols shine through as well as the primary ones. This is a great improvement for non-touch typers who need to see what they're doing in the dark. Looking at the stabilizers, we can see that the Huntsman Mini uses clip-in stabilizers that are detachable from the base that's attached to the PCB, compared to the all-in-one stabilizers used on previous Razer boards. Now finally, a quick overview of the specs on the Razer Purple Clicky optical switches. They have a 45 gram actuation force, which is 5 grams less than the older Razer Green Clicky switches that had an actuation force of 50 grams. These switches also have a shorter travel of only 1.5 millimeters before actuation versus the 2 millimeters on the Razer Green switches. Looking at the reset point itself, it's more instantaneous when releasing a key due to the optical switches compared to the traditional switches that had a short delay before resetting. While typing on these switches, I did notice that they were a lot more sensitive to typos because I would accidentally actuate a switch in passing while in a typing frenzy. So during the week that I used this board, I had to get used to pushing keys more precisely in order to avoid typos. This meant that typing from an angle was a lot harder when I wasn't perfectly aligned with the board. Now let's take a look over the switches themselves and listen to how they sound and compare them with the green switches. The two switches honestly sound very similar in my opinion when comparing the switches directly without the influence of the caps and the housing. When gaming, I did notice that the clicky points synced nicely with the actuation point trigger on the purple switches thanks to the optical switch design, but it felt like there was almost little to no resistance when I bottomed out keys past the actuation point, which made it difficult for me to strafe around in shooters. But this was most likely due to the muscle memory I had built up expecting a pushback resistance when I had bottomed out the keys. That feeling for me confirmed that the key had registered. The purple switches on the other hand had little to no feedback after passing the actuation point, so it almost felt like I was using linear switches after pressing into the second half of the key. Although I do want to stress that this is my personal opinion, but I feel like the Razer Green switches are a lot better for gaming, for me personally. Now I wanted to wrap this video up with the typing test. After using the keyboard for about a week, I was able to average around 115 to 120 words per minute, which is still slightly below my average of around 130 words per minute on my daily driver, the Chroma X. But I'm sure that after some more time with these switches, my speed would average out, but these are definitely not the easiest switches to get used to while typing. Finally, let's dive into the conclusion. Razer's first attempt at a 60% keyboard was a great success. This keyboard is lightweight, compact, and well thought out. The build quality is excellent in all aspects, and in my opinion, it's a top-notch gaming keyboard. But when it comes to these purple optical switches, I feel like they're just so different from any standard MX switches that it will naturally take time to adapt and get used to them. I've talked with some friends that have been using the purple switches long-term, and they mentioned that at first they had the same problem that I was facing, how it does take a while to get used to the short travel and quick actuation. But other than that, as a pure gaming keyboard, when used strictly for gaming, the reduced size allows for better mouse and keyboard posture, offers more room for mouse movement without accidentally bumping into the board, and sheds a lot of keys that aren't used when playing competitive games. When it comes down to gaming and productivity hybrids, this keyboard is rather difficult to use, as the keys that were shed to reduce the size ended up being super inconvenient to access. But if you're looking for a keyboard that's strictly for gaming and don't need the function keys, then I would recommend checking this keyboard out. Now, I just wanted to thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions about this board, please be sure to leave a comment below. Don't forget to smash the like button, and if you like the content that I'm putting out, then a sub would be greatly appreciated. Until next time.